So we can hear from the member for Hasluck.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Resources. How will the Albanese Labor government's investment into the resources sector deliver a future made in Australia, and are there any barriers to that agenda?
Call to the Minister for Resources and the Minister for Northern Australia.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and thank you to the member for Hasluck for her question. The natural resources of this great continent are literally the bedrock and the starting point for a future made in Australia. Yeah. The Prime Minister recently announced in Western Australia the groundbreaking Resourcing Australia's Prosperity Program. Our government is investing $3.4 billion over 35 years for Geoscience Australia to find new deposits of minerals and sources of energy to build a future made in Australia. Yeah. This is the largest investment of any Australian government in pre-competitive geoscience, the science and exploration for the resources we need to get to net zero. All of the minerals and the rare earths we needed for essential supply chains and green technology needed for net zero are all found here in Australia. We just need to know where to find them, as Australia is 80% underexplored. This is a generational investment in the science underpinning the resources sector and is an absolute game changer. Along with the 10% critical minerals production tax incentive, this is the most significant budget for the resources sector in this country ever. And if companies, we must remember, if they don't make a value-added product, they don't receive a tax credit. It is an incentive based on success. And we've also committed over $10 million of planning for critical minerals common user facilities and partnerships with the states and territories. So we've welcomed these initiatives, as I might add, have the Liberal and National leaders in Western Australia. So what is standing in the way? What are the barriers to these policies, I am asked? Well, to be frank, Mr Speaker, it is the Shadow Treasurer and the Leader of the Opposition and probably the whole of the LNP of Queensland. Now, I wonder if they'd taken the time to ask the Queensland Resources Council what they think of these policies. If they had, they would know that Jeanette Hewson, the CEO of the QRC, has said the critical minerals production tax incentive, funding to progress common user facilities and $566 million to Geoscience Australia to develop new data are all important announcements that will benefit our critical minerals industry. And those opposite, Mr Speaker, pretend to be a friend of the West, but nothing could be further from the truth. Because maybe they would have consulted the Chamber of Minerals and Energy in Western Australia. As CEO Rebecca Tompkinson has said, it is pleasing to see the federal government adopt CME recommendations such as the production tax incentive for critical minerals and funding for common user infrastructure. Now, the QRC and the CME of WA are hardly the stalwarts of support for the Australian Labor Party, but they know a good policy when they see it. What we know is the opposition choose not to act in the national interest but in their own self-interest. They want to offshore Australia's future. We will make a future here in Australia.